What's up? Welcome, welcome back to my podcast. I got a special guest here. Got my dad, Dante Haversham, and we just gonna talk about. I want to talk about go over his life. Some key points I want to discuss with him, and hopefully some of the things he says
Lordy.
gonna touch somebody out there. So, Dad, how you doing today?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
You don't want the mic?
Nah, my voice is picking
Okay,
up.
all right. So, well, first I want to talk about your upbringing. How was your upbringing?
Oh, it was rough. Let's see. So when I was born, when I was conceived, my dad was still in his first marriage.
Okay.
And so he wasn't really, he was in my life, but he wasn't in my life because mostly my grandfather and my uncle began to raise me because my mom always was at work at the point in my life. And so the time that I got to spend with my dad was either football, which I hated, or fishing, which I love. So it was never really no in between because it was always at work. So it wasn't a bad thing, but I learned you can't give what you don't have. And so he never had that, so he couldn't give us that. So
Okay. So and so you and granddaddy y'all relationship never as a child was never
never
like
took off.
okay.
It was a relationship. I always say it was like absent, being present but not present, whatever that means. Just because my dad had a lot going on at the time, he was in his 30s and sham rock, so he was living his life, and I get it. Um, a lot of times when we grow up, especially in his days, now finding out his dad uh, was out in the streets with other women, and so his dad didn't give him that full father relationship, even though he was in the same house. But I'm guilty of it. So his dad didn't give him what he didn't have, and my dad couldn't give us what he didn't have, and I couldn't give my kids what I didn't have because it's a piece. You look at a puzzle, it's sometimes this piece is missing. And some of those pieces don't come until later on in life. And it's unfortunate, but that's just what happens. So thank God, for my dad, and also thank God for my granddaddy cornbread. Because him and my Uncle Charles helped fill in the missing gaps. And so, so that's how it was.
Right. Okay. And so you actually had problems growing up in school. You had learning. You was
Yep.
not the smartest kid.
Definitely not the smartest. I was the cutest though. Definitely not the smartest. And I think I could have applied. Well, I don't think. I know I could have applied myself more, but I think I just gave up. I don't know why, but I just gave up. Maybe because when I was little, it was just pounded in me. Back then, if you didn't get your homework, if you didn't read a book, you got whooped. And so it just was a turn off action. So I remember in 10th or 11th grade, they offered me to just basically come to school for attendance and then leave like 11 o'clock. And so I would leave and go to work. And I was saying this on recently in an interview that I found myself falling in love with working. Of course, I love to make money, but I also loved it, the company I worked for at the time, because it was a black-owned business, and I, it impressed me the way the owners, how he handled business, how he dressed, the car he drove. And so that is what pushed me through high school, to just know I just want to finish, get done, so I can get my life in the work field.
Okay. So what was life like after graduation?
Ooh. After graduation, uh, so I graduated at 18, and then at 19, I got a phone call, and this girl said I'm pregnant. So don't try this at home, okay? And so this girl named Whitney said she was pregnant, and I was like, well, I don't know who baby that is. So yeah, so 9 months later, I got a baby boy named Denham. And then 9 months after that, I got a baby girl named Jemiah. Woo woo. So yeah, so by the time I'm 20, 21, I got 2 kids, and I'm like, wow. So I never, because I started early with kids, I never really lived, and still to this day at 39, I never really lived. And when I say that, I mean like, some kids go to college, uh, some kids go to the service, some kids travel, some kids work. Well, by me having 2 kids, by the time I'm 20, 21, I had to jump into the work field. So I found myself trying to sell marijuana, um, dabbling a little bit of cocaine, just doing stuff to make ends meet. Became a professional shoplifter. I was still clothes, I was still shoes, I was still electronics, just trying to make ends meet. No education. But I knew one thing that I did have is I like to work. And so, yeah, I think after school, me taking that route, I made life a little bit harder for me. But it was all of testimony to bring me up into the point that I am now in life.
All right. So you say you after you graduated you got have me, then you got Maya coming 9 months later.
Yeah, yeah.
So when did that become like, when did you realize like you had I don't want to say, was it, you can call it an addiction?
Yeah.
When did you realize you had an addiction for that one, for women? You couldn't.
Uh, let's see. Uh, I knew it. Uh, so my grandfather on my dad's side had this generational curse. My grandfather on my mother's side had this issue. All my uncles on both sides had this issue. So guess what? I was bound to have the issue. When I became conscious of it was maybe um, okay. So when I became conscious of it was probably after the second hurt, uh, hurting a person, a people, a women, that loved me or I loved at the time, um, by seeing them hurt. But I think when it really took shape was around 2014 when I really saw the effect of my due diligence.
Yeah.
Because when you operating in something, a lot of time it blinds you. And even though people may tell you what you're doing wrong or how you're doing it wrong, you don't see it until you actually see it.
Right.
And so I think in 2014 is when I really caught it, but I was still spinning out of control. And so 2018, 19 is when I start becoming more conscious of it. 2020, 21 is when I really was able to grab a hold of it.
Okay. And okay, so right after you get out of high school, you bounce around, have your jobs. I remember you working at a car dealership.
Yeah.
Uh, when you growing up, you had this desire to be a business owner.
Mm.
How did when did you finally realize, all right, I'm not gonna work for man no more. I'm gonna do my own thing.
So it was in 2010. I was selling crabs. I started selling crabs. And I took on that hustle mentality because I had a cousin that became a kingpin for Brunswick, Georgia. But I watched how he moved. I listened to how he hustled. And so I took that same hustle mentality and I turned it into selling crabs. And I would stay up late than everybody else. Like I hustle crabs like the dope man hustle dope. I hustle drugs. And so 8 months in, I got a phone call. Well, no, probably about 5 months in, I got a phone call from my boss, and he was like, "Hey, this, that, and the third with the management," and he was like, I'm gonna have to let you go, but I'm not gonna fight your unemployment. I'm gonna let you get unemployment." So I look, and I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna work for nobody else ever again in life. And I meant that. And so, by any means necessary. So it was hard, but it was times that, me and my wife, which my girlfriend at the time, we would drive to Albany to drop off crabs. We would drive to Atlanta to drop off crabs. Wherever where we could make money to make ends meet, that's what we did. And we persevered through good times, through bad times. Missed a lot of things in our kids' life because we had to make ends meet. But thank God that He is a restorer and He's redeeming lost time.
Right. All right. So, what was your first impressions of Miss Habersham when you first met her?
Babe, my first impression. Ooh. Boy, I was like, boy, I got me on red one here, boy. So, honestly, my first impression, uh, I was like, I don't know. It was just for me at the time how we started off. It was just a thing. We had a thing. We understood it. Um, it was comfortable. Uh, it was secure. Uh, it was just a good thing. It was great from the beginning. The kids hit it off. We had times together. We played water fights. I mean, the kids just mashed together like a family, and just my darkness messed that up. At first it destroyed it almost. But thank God that my wife heard from the Lord, and He told her that I was her husband. And so she held on to that. And so here we are 13 years later, still shucking.
Damn.
You know.
I can't believe that was 13 years ago.
13,
13 years ago.
13, my longest relationship ever. 13
Oh.
years. 13 years. 13 years.
So we had for people we had a multitude of houses together, but
Yeah.
it was for I'm gonna say because I'm gonna talk to Miss Harrison about this when I interview her. But what did you, from your side of the story? What did you see? It was a lot of conflict, like a lot of conflict between
Everybody.
yeah, Miss Havisham and me and my sisters or
Mhm.
baby mom and stuff like that. But we're not gonna baby mom. We're gonna talk about just what we're gonna talk about just
We
what gives out.
They ain't here to defend themselves.
Yeah, we would talk. We would keep that in. We would keep out of the house. Yeah. So, what did you see from your side of the story? What did you see out throughout all them years? From Miss Habersham and us. What's your take on that?
Okay, um, so one thing I know about my wife is she love hard. The next thing that I know is when people cross her, it's hard to recover because she's been hurt. And we all know the saying, hurt people hurt people. And, she just went to a women's conference a couple of weeks ago and they had to deal with that hurt, that pain. And one of the things now on the other side of it, since she's been set free of that, she said that she unwanting to, but a force wants her to make other people feel what she felt.
Okay.
And so, I think that's more of a natural thing when people get hurt. We tend to punch, not physically, but emotionally. We punch at uh, we punch at other people's pains, not intentionally, but it just happens. And so I just think a lot of pain and a lot of confusion over the years. Um, just it caused a lot of damage. But the great thing about our story is it's all being redeemed. Right.
I'm gonna be honest. Growing up, like I was always in trouble, but I never looked at myself as like a juvenile type of kid. I was just kind of like a class clown, wrong place, wrong time type of guy. But uh, as a child, I would always get being disciplined a lot. So and
Why is that? So I'm gonna answer your question. So because honestly, why that happened is because that's what happened to me. And so that's all I knew. Right. If I act up, I got a whooping. I remember one time I had acted up in school, I had got in trouble. And my daddy came home, stripped me down, and beat me, and beat me, and beat me, and beat me. And when it was all over, I was black and blue on my whole backside. And so that's another thing. Hurt people hurt people. Right. So I took out in my son the only thing I knew to do was tell your brother because that's what my dad did to me. He tore my behind up. And so, once again, hurt people. And so the same, this it's so crazy that my dad said over me, "Oh, I know Dante gonna end up in jail." And it's the same thing I spoke over you. I know Denham will end up in jail because that's all we had to go out on. So
yeah, when you were a child, you feel like your parents, cause I don't know. I guess when you're a child, you feel like your voice is so small, or you kind of voiceless. So you feel like your parents gonna take the teacher side in any situation, cause
true,
they the adult and you the child. So
true.
uh, so you mentioned we talked about you graduating, you getting let's talk about you starting Shucks. Actually, I want you to tell the testimony of how the vision came over
Okay.
you.
So um So I knew that I was gonna be a business owner. I just didn't know how it was gonna all play out. But I just remember one day I heard a voice and it said, "Meet me on the couch at 6 a.m." And so that's what I did. And so this particular time I would get on the couch in the morning, pray, and one morning the heavens just, it was like the roof lifted off the house and it was just a scroll. And I just kept seeing visions of shucks. And so that's how it started in my mind. And then, I would talk about it to different people, and they would never see it. They couldn't see it. But and so when we started out with just a pot in my grandmother's backyard with a bushel of crabs. And about two weeks in, I had said a nonchalant prayer like, "Lord, I wish somebody would just send me somebody to help me." And a week later, the phone rang, and it was who's my mother-in-law, who's now my mother-in-law, is Miss Doreen Wiley, which is now my mother-in-law. She called and she was like, "I got somebody I want you to meet." And so we started rapping, and that's how it happened. So she couldn't keep her hands off me. So that's how it started, and then we went to the church, and then from the church we went to the food truck, and from the food truck we went to my girlfriend's apartment, and she was right there beside me, shucking, backing crabs. And one day she was like, "Let me do it." And I'm thinking like, "Man, you don't know what you're doing." And bruh, she outworked me, and that's hard now, cause I go in there like baby. So she outworked me, and it just came together. It was definitely God sent. Yeah. And we opened up Shucks in June of 2011, and the rest is history. I mean, God has just opened many doors, have given us expanded our territory, and so we just thankful.
Did you ever want to before you took it before you got Shucks Bill? Did you ever like leave? Wanted to just give up, throw the towel in?
Oh yes, many a times I wanted to throw the towel in. Still, sometimes to this day, I'd be like, "What am I doing?" Like, if somebody come offer me $10 million right now, it's gone. You hear that? 10 million is gone. But yeah, I'm thankful because one of my sisters in Christ sent me a text and was like, "The Lord is teaching me perseverance," and I am definitely learning perseverance on every day, because every day is different, and having your own company, and so I'm thankful though. I'm thankful.
So and we move into what's the house? What was the house Wally was born into? What's it called?
King Cotton.
King Cotton Road.
King Cotton Road in Beverly, not Beverly, Bell Point.
Bell Point. Okay.
Yeah.
So we move in there. I think that's the first house we actually officially moved in together.
Yep.
So what was it? 2013, 2014, 2014. You found out that you are welcoming a baby with Miss Havisham. Y'all get pregnant. But then you found, well, you knew, but we found out that you had another baby on the way in secrecy. So how did you how was 2014 for you? Because you had to keep so many secrets.
Yeah. I was a man of many secrets. So 2014 was I was numb. Um, because I couldn't believe that this was happening. Right. It was unbelievable. I couldn't even express the words because of the shame, the guilt, of tearing apart people lives. You know, people. I hurt people behind us, and so um, I still to this day I can't put words to it.
Mm.
Um, and it's the crazy thing is it's the same thing that happened when you and Maya was born. The
Right.
same hurt that it was the same thing, and so um, almost the same scenario because you was my secret child. You was my I kept you a secret for I didn't tell nobody.
Mm.
So I don't know, boy. I was in a dark place, boy. But 2014 was hurt, and then we got into 15, and I tried to run from it by separating myself. Um, and it just did even more damage,
Right.
and it did even more damage. So yeah, don't go down that road, please. Stay far away from
Uh, so how like man, just I don't really, to be honest,
it.
like it's a lot of people. It's a lot of people that will like give up. I mean, they've been betrayed. They've been turn their back on. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's a lot of people that wouldn't even have nothing to do with Dante Harris. Or I would say a lot
Right.
of women that would have nothing to do with Dante Harris. So like, I mean, you have a woman that decided to stick with you through
Yeah.
your darkness. I mean, how like
How did
how's
I do
that?
it?
No, like, I mean, like, how you fathom that? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
So it's unbelievable. But you know what the Lord told me about my wife is that she was sent to show me God's love. Because if you really think about it, what she went through and what I took her through and what we went through again and went through again and went through again, and for her to honor me through it all, that is what God's unconditional love for his children looks like. And so I think not only I fell in love with her even more, but I fell in love with God because she didn't let it go. She held on to me the whole time, and I really thank God for that because I think if she would have left me, it would have hurt me, but I think I would have lost my desire for God if she would have left me.
yeah. Just for like for me personally, um, I can like just to go deep, like, man, when you got two people, two adults in the house,
Mm-hmm.
and some of that stuff what was going on in the house came on to me, like just like open doors for me being curious. Like at 10 years old, man, you just be supposed to be being a kid. You're not supposed to be, watching porn and doing that stuff. And that stuff can destroy a child at a young age.
It can
But
destroy an adult.
yeah, so like it happened. It happened to me. We when we moved to Cypress Mill and we all staying with you. And I got into a lot of I started watching a lot of pornography, but it wasn't like it was more so like a curious thing. It wasn't like I was fiending for it, but as I started watching at a young age, it just sat there quietly, just grew and grew and grew over the years until I was moved to Savannah. That's when it really like
Yeah, took over.
yeah, because
So the
I had much access.
same thing happened with me. Before pornography, we used to call them flicks.
Yeah.
And before that, we used Playboy. So I can remember same age, being at my grandmother's house. My granddaddy had Playboy books stashed everywhere you can imagine. He had them under the bed, behind the bed, in the closet, in the drawer, out in the in the shed. Like I probably seen every edition of Playboy 80s made. Then you know what the crazy thing? So I don't know if nobody noticed, but how I fed my porn addiction was my uncle worked at a place called Video USA.
USA.
Video USA. And Video USA had an adult room full of porn. And I don't even know how I even asked my uncle to let me start renting porn. But at a young age, I'm probably like 17. I'm still in high school. I'm going to Video USA and I'm renting porn from my uncle. Not like illegally, but like he let me go in there 18 and up, 21 and up, whatever, however. Oh, I wasn't old enough yet. But I'm renting porn, so like I'm the cool kid. Dante uncle let him rent porn, so I'm watching all the latest, and the greatest. I still remember the names, all my stars. But yeah, I remember that. Like I remember it was a lot. So and this was before the internet was out. So I remember the VH flicks, then it went to the DVDs, and then it went to the smartphone. So yeah, it was deeply rooted. Deeply rooted.
Yeah. And like it don't really, for me, I can't speak for nobody else, but it didn't really like you for some reason I've always thought, for some reason, it was like a God given conviction, but I didn't know it. I didn't know porn. Like I knew porn was wrong, but I didn't know how biblically it was wrong. Your parents tell you don't watch porn. If you, or they say I don't want you having sex, but if you have sex, wear a condom, right?
Right.
But they're not. If they weren't taught spiritually why you shouldn't have sex as well, they just don't know. Yeah, so I mean, until my dad, I have to say, like, till my dad made a choice, like, to like okay, he need to get this thing under control. That's when the opportunity for me to get that mind under control. Yeah. Right? Because everything the parent does falls on the child. So
yeah. So are you free from porn?
Am I free from porn? I am free from porn.
Okay. Yes, I am free from porn as well. I've probably been free. I haven't watched porn in probably at least 4 years, 5 years maybe. So I am free from porn. Thank you, Lord. I am delivered. Right.
I want to just because we're on this topic, I want to tell this. I told my dad this a couple days ago, but I went to Valdosta State University like last Saturday, and I ain't know sleeping with a girl that I known since first grade, right? So one, like, on the way there, because
conviction was tearing your butt up.
Yeah, it was like when you get saved and born again, God gives you a new identity. Now, that identity is like a newborn baby. It's fresh, so you like a baby. You gotta relearn things. And part of my new identity, don't I know that sex is not a privilege I can walk into until I'm in covenant with somebody, right?
Right.
But the human side of that is when you, even if it's an innocent little thing, like if you're a teenager and you innocent, you curious, you hear all these talks about sex, you hearing your friends talk about it, you may hear your parents talk about it. Now you want to see for yourself, okay, is it really made up if it's really cracked up what it's made to be, right?
Right.
So the human side of me was like, okay, I'm gonna be in this room with this girl. Now, I didn't know that when I was on the way there, she told me her roommate was going. I didn't know that. Like when I'm getting ready to go, right? She told me her roommate was gone, right?
Oh,
so, Lord. So yeah, it happened. And when I got home, um, it was like, okay, man, I just had sex, and I'm gonna be honest with y'all, like, yeah,
Well,
I'm put
we
out.
hear you.
I'm gonna be honest, man. I see why sex is so addictive. I see why once you taste it, it's so hard to let that taste go because sex
Taste
was
it or feel it.
because taste when you taste the when you taste when you taste the forbidden.
I don't want to hear that.
No, I'm saying when you taste the forbidden fruit. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, okay.
When you taste the forbidden fruit,
Oh boy,
that's what
we
I'm
get
saying.
deep, y'all.
Yeah, when you get a hold of it, it's hard to break that stronghold. But in this case, I see why, cause it's like a lot, like I enjoy every minute of it, but still, I still don't have that right. So anyway, the good thing about it is that when you get to know God for yourself and not just hear about people relationship with God, but you get to know him from yourself, you get to understand why people boast about him so much and say how good he is, because he's not a person who condemns. He uplifts. Even he knew what I was gonna do before I even went to sleep that next day. Like he knew my every move, what I was gonna do, what I was gonna think. And you talking about somebody that's a cheerleader, he is our biggest. He uplifted me through that. He told me what I need to do next time to don't make that happen again. So I mean,
Thank
uh,
God for His mercy.
yes, because the problem is that you know, me being young, sex is so it's so easy to access nowadays. Like it's everywhere. Our children is getting access to it. It's on TV. It's everywhere. So that's probably, I would say, probably the sexual lifestyle for a man, for me, for myself, I say that's probably the hardest thing to give up when you're trying to live a holy life, is that pride, sex, and ego, stuff like that. So but back to my dad. So you say 20, you go to Kingdom Life 2018. You meet Gene, you meet everybody, and you get introduced into a new style of worship. Now you get introduced into, okay, now they tell you about reading the word. You see all these visions and stuff like this on the wall. So yeah, talk about that for me real quick.
Okay. So, yep. So I went to Kingdom Life in Savannah in October the 13th, 2018. And I got a rude awakening. And he was like that I was frustrating the grace on my life and that I was spiritually out of alignment. And so, hearing that, it still, I was not all the way ready to come out of my darkness. But thank God for that that moment in eternity, because that, I think that turned turned me going into a different direction, or at least seeking a different direction. And so it took me some time, it did, but um, like to say, the mercy of God is everlasting. And so um, God saw me through that time in my life and put people around me to walk me through it and to help me to my freedom. And so, yep, that's what happened.
My first I think is when I would think I was dating Destiny in middle school. You took us there once. I don't know if you remember or not, but you took us there one night. And
To a youth night.
yeah. And it's crazy because like when you feel, always felt the pulling of God on my heart. Shoot, since when I moved to Savannah 2017, I felt the pulling of it. And so, but when you feel, but when you ain't made your mind up yet, like we would go to it's one of our good friends, his name Chris. He would come down to Brunswick and preach, and we would go to his sessions.
Youth night.
Yeah, and it's crazy. Like he would, like when we like gave. I remember I used to give this man my number, and he would text me and invite me places, and I would look at the text and delete his phone number. Like that's like I look back at that. I'm like, dang, like I really did. What if I would have accepted that?
Right.
I probably wouldn't have gone through what I had to go through.
Mm.
We think we
That's
gotta,
good. That's
yeah.
good. That's good.
I probably wouldn't have faced what I had to face if I just,
Yeah.
took that test message. But I wasn't sure. But I've always felt the pulling. And when I first started coming to Kingdom Life in Savannah, uh, when I finally made my mind up, even though I wasn't sure about what was ahead, all the trials and tests was about to come, but I was sure enough, and made up in my mind that I was going to now devote my life to Jesus rather than just, be in and out of it.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, when you we move into this house.
Mm-hmm.
But we actually, before we moved into this house, our previous house had burned down.
Yeah. Right.
Uh, and just by the goodness of God, I wasn't. How long was it before y'all was able to actually move into this house? Because I know it
About
was
a week.
already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we was waiting on closing date.
Right.
But we was living in Kingsland, and it was time to own our own home, and so I can remember riding by this exit every morning and saying, "I'm gonna live on that exit," confessing it, and it came to pass. But it took us about 6, 7 months, and it came to pass. And the week of closing, our house that we was living in caught on fire. It had a grease fire, and forced us out earlier. But thank God, all this was in the plan. And so here we are, going. We've been since 2020, and thank God for
So in this house, we don't have so many other houses before, but in this
it.
house, have you seen more breakthrough than you ever could imagine
Mm.
since us moving into this house?
Yeah, definitely a testimony. I don't know. I won't say breakthroughs, but definitely testimonies
Okay.
of you know um, things happening. Because even we moved in this house, it was still a lot of things happening in the family, and so we had a lot of testing. We had a lot of trials, even in this house. Um, but we just worked through them, just as a family do. You work through them.
Right. Yeah, definitely. Like when I first met my step siblings, I was young, but we immediately clicked. Like it wasn't no, sometimes it take a little while to get around, but it was, yeah, we definitely clicked like that. And I remember one time I told Miss Harrison to her face, I was like, I wish you was my mom. Well, it was just like that. Like,
Yeah.
so, we moved into all these houses later, but I tell my dad, like, I'd be like, I wish when I was younger I would appreciate it those times more, because now everybody growing up and
We
moving,
all grown.
everybody moved away, or
Yeah.
or about to move away. So yeah, definitely wish that's something that I would have appreciated more during my childhood. Telling telling my siblings, that how much they mean to me, which I still can
Yeah, yeah,
to this
yeah.
day. But it hit a little bit different when you can't just get in your car and drive down the road and see them. You gotta wait a
Mhm.
couple months to see them or something like that. But anyway, so closing, we that you well, first I want to say this: you and Miss Havisham, y'all got ordained, and I know y'all probably done had some disagreements here and there, definitely,
Mhm.
but I've never, like, it's been the best since, I'm gonna say, well, y'all got ordained in what, May?
Yeah, May,
So that was what 3 months ago. That was probably the
May,
best.
June, July, August, September,
No,
October. No,
of
6 months.
6 months. 6 months ago. Like, for me, this the best I've seen them in 6 months in the last. This the best I've seen them in 6 months than the previous 12 and a half years.
Ooh,
So
ooh.
that's just me. Now y'all probably
Yeah,
could say something different, but that's
we
just me.
have definitely grown and matured, and trying to understand each other's viewpoint. Because my wife is very strong opinionated, and I am as well. And so um, we both operate from a boss perspective. And so we have to learn how to respect one another's opinion. Sometimes we have to walk away, but definitely since the ordination is, we are more aware now of, uh, more conscious of what's at hand, what's important, and what's a distraction.
Do you feel like you have you feel like you meeting the real Miss Habersham last 6 months then, or just last year rather than the previous other years?
Uh, I think I met Miss Habersham in levels.
Okay.
So when I first met her, I think before the hurt, before the betrayal, that was a good. That was who Natalie Wiley
Right.
was. Um, and then the hurt came, and then we married into the hurt, and then more hurt, and now it's like her and now are both being recreated. So no, I haven't met the real Natalie Habersham yet, but I'm seeing bits and pieces of her, and it's got me really, turned on.
Any any business, any young, I'm starting with this podcast thing. Any advice you want to give out to young
Ooh,
entrepreneurs?
that's a
Yeah,
good one. In the closer, because my wife says she got to get to the stove.
yeah.
So yes, young entrepreneurs. Um, you got two ways to do business, and it's your choice either way you do it. You can do it God's way, or you can do it your way. Doing it God's way will lead you to a stress-free landing. Doing it your way will lead you to uh, pain, aggravation, uncertainties, just a lot of things that you have to figure out. Um, it's your choice, whichever way you choose. I have done business both ways, but the way that God created for us to do it, if we do it that way, it will be uh, peace, it will be longevity, it will be fruit, and you will help a lot of people.
All right, there you have it.
Peace.
Appreciate it, Dad.